This podcast is sponsored by Murgitroyd, intellectual property attorneys. For more information on today's guest and our company, visit murgitroyd.com/podcasts.
Welcome to the fourth season of Murgitroyd's Innovation Talks podcast. We're delighted you've joined us. If you have any questions, you can email us at innovation.talks@murgitroyd.com or via @Murgitroyd on Twitter. And please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. So let's go straight into today's podcast.
Hello, my name is Alain and I'm a trainee trademark attorney at Murgitroyd's Croydon office. I'm joined today by Dewdney, who's a director in trademarks in our Croydon office. Dewdney, how are you doing?
Good, and you, Alain?
Very good. So today we're going to talk about non-traditional marks. Most people see a trademark as a word, maybe a logo, and if they're fancy, a combination of both. But you and I both know that trademarks go far beyond that. What kind of marks can SMEs or startups that have big creative talent register?
Well, there's quite a wide range of trademarks that can be registered, and they could include sounds, colours, shapes, positions, and unusual combinations of those. In my experience, they can be quite difficult to register, but I think it's important for SMEs to be aware that there are possibilities. So we can have a discussion about some examples, things that have worked, things that haven't worked, and see if something might emerge from that in terms of opportunities for small companies.
Absolutely. Let's start with sounds. What's a good example of a famous sound mark? Could you give us one?
Yeah, the MGM lion is pretty distinctive and probably recognized across the world. And I believe they managed to register that in the US.
Since 1924.
Wow, that's pretty old.
Yeah, they used 6 different lions, and the last one was called Leo the Lion, but it has been a registered trademark for quite a while.
Well, it sounds to me like a correct decision on the part of the USPTO, because when you hear that sound, it would function as a badge of origin. And I think that would be a good sort of yardstick for anybody thinking about whether they would have prospects for registering a sound, is whether upon hearing that, they would attribute that to one particular trader and not just some sort of sound effect. So I think in the context of film, if you hear a lion roaring, it brings to mind MGM.
Absolutely. And now, if you're a company that is in the fashion industry or is really involved in design, position and shape marks, these really could be interesting for them. Could you tell us a little bit more about them, please?
Yeah, I mean, the world of fashion certainly lends itself to trademark registration. I think an important step there is that a lot of what people might think is a trademark is probably a registered design, or could be a registered design. So I think as a first step, you might want to think whether your design is new and has individual character, sort of technical requirements. The key thing is you can talk to a lawyer and they can clarify this for you, but you want to be conscious of the 12-month grace period. So, people are very busy, and if you want to get some information on that, don't wait longer than 12 months from when it's been published. But ideally, get talking to an expert as soon as you can, because a lot of that sort of stuff will be registered designs. However, there are cases where it can be registered as a trademark. And again, it comes down to whether or not the sign can function as a badge of origin.
Absolutely.
So you've got to think whether when people see this feature, are they just going to think it's a pretty feature, or are they going to think this has to come from a particular trader? So if you think that that feature has got so much prominence that the relevant consumer will think that, then it's time to talk trademarks.
That was the crux of the matter when Louboutin attempted to register their Red Soul trademark. A lot of people said, well, no, it can't function as a trademark. It's not an indication of origin. It's just a decorative element. But then everybody started copying Louboutin shoes, and all of a sudden the discussion, oh, well, maybe it is a trademark after all.
Well, I think with that sort of thing, the perceptions of the public play a big role. So it may not have been the case in the beginning that would have been seen as a trademark, but as a result of extensive use and reputation, that became the case over a period of time. So the position can evolve. So if you're not able to register a trademark now, you may be able to do so in the future.
Absolutely. And what about colours? Just single blocks of colours. Can people register that as trademarks?
It is theoretically possible. The example I often think of is the Cadbury's purple, which per se is a trademark for chocolate. And we often mention these sort of things at awareness talks and so on, and people get very excited, but that is really, really hard to do. And you really have to have a reputation attached to that particular colour in order to get there. So by all means try, but it's hard. Combinations of colours are somewhat easier, but still difficult. I think if you're an SME, it's fairly unlikely that this will be relevant to you, but you may find yourself in an industry where you have unusual colours and it's a very particular product. There may be special circumstances that apply to you, and it's always good to seek advice.
Absolutely. And we're quite proud to say that Murgitroyd and Company was one of the first trademark firms to ever register a colour mark. Actually, the BP green on their service stations was registered quite a while back now.
Yeah, that's a very big achievement of our firm, and I know the attorney that was involved in that, and he's very capable.
I understand it took the registry a bit of convincing before registering it.
These things are never easy, but that's where we came in.
And now moving on to the digital revolution, if you don't mind me saying, companies now communicate with their customers or prospective customers in very different ways than they used to. You know, the whole mail order thing is a bit past now. Some companies communicate through social media, and you'll see these videos, sometimes 10, 15 seconds long. Could these be trademarks as well?
I think, again, it depends on what the relevant consumer will see in that video. If it's simply perceived as being a decorative form of entertainment, something probably not. But if it is seen as being a badge of origin, they see that as the source of products or services, then it could potentially be trademarked.
And not to be confused with copyright.
Yeah.
Where trademarks don't have a role to play. And now, moving on to my favourite type of trademarks, simply because there aren't any registered in the UK as far as we know, smell marks. Now, Dewdney, tell me, if I tell you this following description, the sweet, slightly musky vanilla fragrance with slight overtones of cherry combined with the smell of salted wheat-based dough, what does that conjure?
Absolutely nothing.
My thoughts exactly.
It's not registered.
As it turns out, this is a United States trademark registration for Play-Doh, the smell of Play-Doh.
Wow. Well, it does sort of match the type of descriptions that are used, but again, it is sort of ultra difficult to convince a registry that people will associate one particular trader with a smell.
The sense of smell is quite subjective. I feel as though it would be hard to convince the registry that every single consumer will recognize it in the same way.
Yeah. I'd say probably if you were going to try and go down that road, you would want a really unusual smell for some product that had no association with that smell.
Like the smell of cherries for IT equipment.
Yeah, something like that. But you'd have to establish the reputation really first, and then potentially you could register that.
Dewdney, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Alain.
Thanks for your time today. We hope you found today's podcast valuable. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. So until the next time, goodbye.
Our business is founded on trust and collaboration. The subjects we choose for our podcasts are topical and informative. We are always looking for suggestions for new topics for discussion, so if there's an area of IP that you're keen to understand better, please drop us a line at innovation.talks@murgitroyd.com.